Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Corey Hughes' Bloody History. Well, I'm really exhausted. My eyes hurt. But if I don't knock this show out now, it's not going to happen today. Because I've been up the vast majority of the night piecing together the various dates that are strewn across the documents reference Oswald in the Marines. And I think I can say with damn near absolute certainty that I think I've unraveled the mystery of Harvey and Lee in the Marine Corps. So John Armstrong got a lot of things right, but he got a lot of things wrong. A couple of these identifications that he choked on were like in particular, he got messed up with the Philippines. And I do believe I have cracked the mystery of Harvey Oswald in, what the hell is that place called? Corregidor. I always can never pronounce that. But as we go through this, and I go through the various dates here, you'll see that everything lines up perfectly. I mean, there's a couple mysteries that I still I don't understand. But for the most part, I think I nailed this thing. So, where to begin? So, a couple things. There are a number of not only inconsistencies with dates, but I can tell you with certainty on when you look at Oswald's duty roster sheet, all the things that he had done over the time that he was in the Marines, there's a lot of sections that you just can't read. And those are sections they don't want you to read. They weren't just bad photocopies. I've got a stack of records here. Owen Dejanovich, Og, Powers. Who else? Kerry Thornley. Holy shit, I got Kerry Thornley's military record, and that motherfucker lie his ass off. But besides the date inconsistencies when it comes to Oswald and the fact that things are just missing off of the duty sheet that he had, I've been able to fill in a lot of these blanks. Actually, the vast majority of them. There's still some conflict, but not much at all. I've been able to resolve virtually everything. So in going over this, I'm going to bounce around. I have no choice. The information that I've been able to put together comes from a combination of 5 different payroll slips from the Marines, his duty sheet, and his leave form. So basically, I have pay slips, his leave form, and his duty roster. And I was able to figure all this shit out in about, how long have I been doing this? 2 weeks? 3 weeks tops? Really? When you see the mistakes these people made, you realize how fucking dumb they are. I'm talking about the grunts in the Marines who put these records together, and the CIA who sloppily edited them before presenting them to us. They never thought we'd figure this out. And honestly, this fucking only took me like 2 to 3 weeks to figure out all this shit. This is why I fucking despise with a passion the JFK research community. They're the dumbest motherfuckers that have ever walked fucking planet Earth. Seriously. All it took was me fucking buckling down and comparing the dates on here and the times, and it was easy to piece together everything that fucking happened, okay? Jesus Christ. So, let's start. I don't know where to start because it bounces around so much, but one of the first things that caught my attention were a scattering of dates on this form that says miscellaneous information and index. And it just says miscellaneous information. And you can tell this was filled out when when Harvey Oswald got started and filled out his form the little questionnaire, because here it says hazel eyes, and he put hazel eyes when he doesn't have hazel eyes. He has blue eyes, which is weird. 68 inches, which is 5'8". So you have to realize we have an initial form that says 5'8", but the picture of Lee Oswald is 5'9", right? So that should be a first hint that there's something wrong right off the bat. On this sheet here, there's also another indication here that kind of confuses me. It says, date last re-entered continental limits of U.S. And it had 24 October 56, which was, actually, no, it says 24 Feb 56. It's FEB 56, and that's crossed out. And it says 8 December 56. Who the hell left the country before December 56? Nobody. Nobody left the country. So why is there a date here that says somebody re-entered the continental United States? Did they go to Mexico? Is that what this is? 8th of December 56? No. That's possible. It's possibly Mexico. But it doesn't say that here. Here are the two dates that caught my attention are the 5th of November 57 and the 30th of October 58. And both of those dates will find their way into the timeline. So a lot of this information I'm going to go over multiple times because I'm going to be on different sheets, and I have 3 or 4 different sheets that I've got 3 or 4 different sets of notes on. I just kind of been winging this thing all night, but it suddenly clicked. It finally clicked when I found this one fucking military pay record that had a bunch of weird fucking dates in here that didn't make any sense. And then when I went and compared them to Oswald's alleged duty sheet, which has all kinds of contradictions on it, I started to see the relationship. And then when I saw the leave form, when I looked at the dates on the leave form and compared the dates on the leave form to the duty sheet and to the payroll slips, the pay records, it just all clicked. The level of coordination with these guys is absolutely fucking amazing. Particularly Taiwan. When Oswald comes back, he has this incident on the 5th where he shoots his gun and says, I'm having a breakdown, I got to go home. And they put him on a plane, and they send him back on October the 6th, right? That we'll get to that story, but like just in looking at these dates and seeing how everything came together, it's obvious what they did. It's obvious the level of coordination. And we might even vindicate, to a degree, Palmer McBride. We might vindicate Palmer McBride today. So, here we are. I'm looking at 3 military pay records. The first one has 4 entries. 2 RTBN, that's 2nd Training Battalion, San Diego. The symbol is A6798, which I believe is 6798. Which one is 6798? 6798, come out. 6796 is El Toro. 6798, San Diego, maybe? But here we go. So we have 2 different dates of entry, it seems, if I'm not mistaking this. We have one that says Lee showed up in Fort Worth on the 25th, and he was in San Diego on the 26th. But I have another entry here that says 10/24. So really we have 3 dates, and we should only have 2. So we have a crossover here to some degree. We have basic training for both Lee and for Harvey. October the 26th, it appears. All the records show that Harvey is in platoon 2060. I don't know what platoon Lee is in, or if he started earlier than Harvey. But that will come to an end on, the graduation for them will be on January the 18th of 1957. But that date of January 18th, 1957, that might be for Lee's basic training. Because I swear to God, I saw a date that I can't re-find. I found it, saw it, and I was like, oh my God, that's it. And then I just blew by it, and I can't remember what it is. I'm falling asleep. So that date was December the 23rd or 24th. It was before Christmas of 1957. Or 1956, I'm sorry, 1956. And I believe that would correlate with the photograph of Platoon 2060 where it says 1956. Because nobody starts school in 56, graduates in 57, and then says they're the class of 56. You're the class of 57 if you graduate in 57. So I'm convinced beyond all certainty that Harvey graduated in 56. And this 1/18/57 has to be when Lee graduated. And so then you go to Camp Pendleton, and here's where we have something interesting. We have starting on 1/20/57, and well, for Harvey, it'll continue beyond February 25th, but for Lee, it will end on February 25th. And it seems as though the contradiction here is that you have MCR, which is Camp Pendleton, which is Marine Combat Ready Unit or something like that. It's MC is Marine Combat. MCT is Marine Combat Training. This is at Camp Pendleton. It's got a number of A6160, it looks like. But we know from Mr. Feld, and Mr. Feld, his statements are mostly backed up from what I've seen so far, up to September when he allegedly goes to Opelika, as long as Harvey did go to Memphis, and we have some evidence that Harvey might have actually gone to Memphis. So, what we have here is the conflict between Harvey going to combat training and Lee going to ICT training. And also, what is ICT training and where the fuck did I get that information from? Well, ICT training is listed directly. God damn it, my dog keeps opening my door. It's listed directly as the second place that Lee Oswald went. Duty Instruction ICT Training. So for 1956 and 57, I found that there were two different types of ICT training. This is where it's going to be hilarious. ICT training can mean one of two things. I don't know which one this is, but I have a heavy suspicion on which it is. ICT training can mean communications training, like you're learning radio stuff. But that kind of contradicts everything that you do at Biloxi, because before you get any radio or anything like that, you get basic aviation stuff, which is all at Jacksonville. If you'll notice, everyone has to go from Jacksonville to Biloxi if they go that way at all. So, you have February the 26th. Duty Instruction ICT training ends for Lee. And he takes leave, believe it or not. He's only there 12 weeks and he gets a month off. Let me see. And how do I know that? Because I'm looking at the leave sheet. And the leave sheet is from the 27th of February to the 13th of March, 57. So, with that in mind, that conflict here is going to fall where it says that Lee is in A Company, which we know that he was in A Company for combat training. That's where he qualified with the weapon in December of 56. But that training continued on. That training, let me see if I have a date here. I'm sure I do. I'll come across it at some point. That training will continue on, basically, until he goes to Jacksonville. No, that's not correct. He won't go to Jacksonville until like June or July. But we have a date here of February the 26th, 1957. I'm convinced that is when Lee finished his ICT training. And then from there, he went on leave for a month from February 27th to March 13th. After that, you have Lee Oswald at the MAD, M-A-D, N-A Tech Training Center at Jacksonville, Florida, code number A6793, from March the 15th. From March the 15th through May 3rd. And that's exactly what we should expect. This is the group with Powers and Schrand, right? And so I think I've concluded what's up with Powers. And if I have concluded what's up with Powers correctly, then that would mean that Lee Oswald, as well as Harvey Oswald, was at least rumored to have been studying Russian in Natsugi, right? There's no way around it. This is where Armstrong went a little off course, I believe, because he was like, one's all communist and the other one's like got nothing to do with it. Well, no, because if you're maintaining a cover and you got to spread rumor, you're going to maintain that communist persona somewhat, even if it's not as gung-ho as Harvey is portraying it, right? You're not going to have a choice. But we'll get to Powers and his statements and why I believe that I've finally been able to sort this and confirm that he knew Lee Oswald. Well, besides the fact that we knew him in the picture, that he knew him in the pictures, right? Because you have those 6 guys in the pictures. One of them, the top right, is Powers, and you know it's Powers because while he was in that course, he was promoted to sergeant, and therefore he had a different hat, and he has like this like thing that goes over his shoulder, a little band. So Lee Oswald and those guys are all at Jacksonville. But here's the thing: Powers doesn't remember Oswald until they get on the train. Right? And so they get on the train. 5 out of the 6 get on the train and go to Biloxi. Schrand doesn't. Schrand goes somewhere else. He gets in trouble. No, I'm sorry. He gets in trouble after Biloxi. He gets in trouble after Biloxi when they're on their way to Casual Company, Marine Battalion headquarters, right? Which is cover for something. I've determined that because I found Oswald's leave dates, and it was only from July 1st to July 4th. But they left there, June 19th, right? And so he was assigned to Casual Company and was only on leave for 4 days before having to go to El Toro, not MACS 9, El Toro, the big station, where they do the draft, right, to send everybody overseas. So, I hope you're following. I don't know if I'm following. So, from here, you've got them at the Jacksonville till May 3rd. They're in Biloxi on the 4th. And some interesting things happen in regards to Powers and the courses that he's assigned to. Because Armstrong makes a big deal that Powers is assigned to a different group. That he shouldn't be part of the group that Oswald and the other 5 guys were in. His had a whole different series of numbers. But in digging through these documents with weird freaking notations on them, I happened to locate a notation that indicates that was changed. All of those guys were initially assigned to that numbered course, but that must have been a mistake because they get there, and I'm just assuming here because of the date and the manner in which it was changed. They get there, and the course that they were assigned to had a different start date of April the 24th, which was like 2 weeks before that, right? This is where that clarification comes in. This is where the April 24th date comes in. They get there, and the course they were supposed to take started 2 weeks ago. So it's up. They start the course on, what is it? Damn it, my phone's ringing. Well, they start the course when they're supposed to. When they get to Biloxi, And then a couple days later in the paperwork, it is changed and it is noted that they're in this new course. So when Powers is being questioned before the Warren Commission, the fact that he has different numbers and stuff is not proof of anything, because those numbers ended up being changed once they got there. So all the conspiracy in reference to that particular aspect can get thrown out the window. So they leave Biloxi. And remember, on Oswald's duty sheet, right, it doesn't say they were at Biloxi. It never says they were at Biloxi. It says they were at Casual Company Headquarters Battalion HQMC, which is Alexandria, Virginia. But that continues, because after they leave from there, they are again assigned to Casual Company HQBN HQMC. So technically on paper, they are at Casco HQBN HQMC from the 4th of May all the way through July 9th. But that's not correct. That is not true at all. It indicates that on some of the pay slips, but it does not indicate that on the actual duty sheet. So, let me think. We're at June 19th, 57. We're already graduated from Biloxi, and it's the time frame between then and getting to the draft, July 9th, is when Oswald has to check in. Powers doesn't check in till the 12th. The other guys aren't scheduled to check in until the 12th, which is weird. Why does Oswald have to get there a couple days early? Well, in going through the dates surrounding the draft and when people would be sent overseas, we find another contradiction here. So Oswald reports July 9th, and we have a date of departed August the 22nd, but I don't believe that's correct, and I'll get to why here in a second. Powers, he was supposed to get there on the 12th, but then when I look at Oswald's payslip, it says he reported to the draft on the 17th of July, which is like a week later, and that he left August 21st, which means the boat would have taken off August 22nd, which is what the paperwork says. But we have a problem, because Powers, when he's being interviewed, it seems like the guy's memory sucks, but it doesn't. It turns out that it doesn't at all. His memory is good. He says he thinks that we left around August 1st and got there about the 15th or around that. But nonetheless, it says that Oswald doesn't leave till the 22nd. I believe what happened is, I believe Powers and Lee Oswald, they got there mid-July. Harvey Oswald probably got there on the 17th. And departed on the 22nd. That's probably what happened. Arrival on the 12th. You see, if you left the beginning of August, like Powers said they did, because they were there for like 3 weeks doing nothing in El Toro. So it wouldn't make sense for them to just be sitting around for like 2 months or longer. So the idea that they would left in the beginning of August and got there, towards the end of August, around the 20-something of August, makes perfect sense to me. But we don't have an arrival date for anything other than the 12th. And I'm assuming that is going to be Harvey, who's assigned to MACS 1 at Sugi 9/12/57. And the date it says he departed there is 10/30/57. Now we have some overlap here. Remember. So if Harvey Oswald is stationed here, MACS 1, 9/12/57 through 10/30/57, you have to recall that it's on 10/27/57 that Lee Oswald shoots himself. And he definitely shot himself on purpose. And we have some contradiction as to what happened with if he was even injured at all. I have an article that I had read to someone who was there immediately after the gun went off, and he specifically said in this article, he's like, everyone says he shot himself in the elbow. He's like, I can tell you with absolute certainty that's not what happened. He doesn't say what happened, but he ends it right there. I believe another person also in their statement said that the bullet actually hit a locker. And if the bullet hit a locker, then how can it be jammed in somebody's arm? Which makes me feel like the whole medical thing was kind of maybe bogus, right? But either way, if he did shoot himself, we have an overlap here because he ends up being in the hospital from the 27th of October through the 15th of November, 1957. But we have this record here that goes from 9/12 to 10/30/57. And then we have, ladies and gentlemen, another overlapping record. And Armstrong didn't figure any of this stuff out. None of these gaps that I'm filling in did he figure out in any way, shape, or form. Because he got Oswald in the Philippines dead fucking wrong. That picture of Oswald with John Wayne. That is most certainly Harvey. That is not Lee. And I know exactly when that was taken. So when you go through the pay slips, what you'll find is while Lee Oswald is in the infirmary from 10/27 through November 15th, we have another set of overlapping dates. But the location and all the other notations have been, wiped out. Can't read them. And it goes from November 4th, 1957 to December 18th, 1957. Okay? Are you starting to pick up what I'm putting down? We have Lee Oswald in the infirmary. Okay? Confirmed from October 27th, 57 through November 15th. But now we have another entry reporting for duty November 4th to December 18th of 57. It's an overlap, right? It's not Lee Oswald because he's shot and he's in the infirmary. This is when Harvey Oswald went to Corregidor in the Philippines. And it completely coincides with David Joseph's determination that he was in the Philippines on the 11th of November. That's fucking wild he came up with that, because when you look at the official paperwork, you would never put two and two together on that, ever, because it says that he was there much later, right? But no, this is the only opportunity. And there's that rumor that Oswald had been in Okinawa and that his group had been in Okinawa. Well, this is it. This is the only opportunity that the Harvey Oswald has to have a picture taken and for him to sign it in the Philippines in Corregidor in 1957. December 18th at the latest. And Oswald's on mess duty here in the Philippines, confirmed by people who were there with him. And also, that supports the notion that it was Harvey Oswald in the photo, which is alleged to have taken place in that photograph right there with John Wayne is supposed to be in January of 1958. But I don't think so. I mean, you've got some... I think I have a gap here in the dates. Or do I? No, I don't know. We'll see as we go through this. But if Harvey Oswald left Corregidor December 18th, then that would mean that the photograph would have had to have been taken beforehand. So that photograph probably didn't take place in January of 58. Probably took place in December of 57. It's only a couple weeks difference, and who the fuck's going to remember that anyway? Most people not going to remember. But I have these dates here, November 4th, 57 to December 18th, 57. It completely fits the time frame that Oswald would have been in Corregidor. So, yeah, that's exactly where the fuck he was. And so you have that overlap, right? You have the overlap, November 4th to December 18th, with the overlap of October 27th to November 15th. Right? He's got the gunshot in his arm. Let me hop over to the duty sheet from the pay records and see if I can find anything here to correlate. Well, here, this is what it has here. It's got the date of November 16th, 57. Because remember, on the 20th of November, and this is where things start to get spooky. So, seeing as how we now understand that Lee Oswald and Harvey Oswald were in the Philippines at different times. Harvey Oswald was there from November 4th to December 18th, 1957. Lee Oswald will get out of the infirmary on November the 15th and on November the 20th. There's some continuity. Let's pause right here for a second, and I'll explain the continuity issues that we could run into depending on who went to Corregidor the second time, right? So we have the pictures of Harvey Oswald in Corregidor. Clearly him, got the skinny neck, white T-shirt, just like he's photographed in the background of the John Wayne photo. If he were to go back, if he were to go from there, okay, and be redirected, this is where things get complicated. Well, there's only really two options. It was either Harvey who went to Corregidor the second time after he got back December 18th, or didn't have to come back because would have transferred over, right? So it would have been November the 20th. I could see that as a possibility, scheduled to December 18th, but instead of coming back, he switched on the 20th of November, right? That's a possibility. That's a possibility. And I'll explain why. So Armstrong assumed it's Lee at the Philippines this time when Martin Schran gets killed, right? So we know Harvey went from November 4th to December 18th, and we assume that Lee went from November 20th until March the 18th. All right, we're assuming the two different guys went at two different times. Oswald was on mess duty in the Philippines. Harvey was on mess duty in the Philippines. But then Lee is on mess duty in the Philippines. Is that coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. So, here's the thing with Martin Schran. And Martin Schran, to me, is the linchpin of this whole thing. These theories that I'm working with, because no, that motherfucker was murdered. You read that report, he's murdered. Go read the report. It's about 50, 60 pages, and there's a couple more hidden pages if you look in the Air Force. But he was fucking murdered. And everybody who wrote in those reports, they fucking knew it, because everything indicates he was murdered. And then they say, well, there's no evidence he was murdered, so he wasn't murdered, right? That's basically what they did. But the problem with that is he could not have dropped it and had it shoot him. The problems with the shooting, again, he was supposed to have 5 shells, all in the cylinder, none in the chamber. Okay? That should not have been racked. The safety should have been on. So, in order for him to have killed himself by negligence or by dropping it, by total coincidence, it would have had to have been racked for whatever reason, we don't know. It would have had to have the safety off. And then it would have had to malfunction when it got dropped. But this is the part that I believe all the investigators knew that it was a murder. Besides measuring his arms and knowing that his arms couldn't reach the trigger, because it was way longer than his arms were. If it would have dropped on its butt and gone off, it wouldn't have shot him only 8 inches from his body, because that's what the forensics determined. The patterns on the skin showed that it was only 8 inches from his chest. Therefore, he would have had to drop it and hunch over it simultaneously when it went off. So all those factors would have had to be at play when Martin Schran was killed for it to have been an accident. It wasn't a fucking accident. He was murdered. If you don't think he was murdered, you're fucking stupid. And you can send me a goddamn email and we can argue about it. But that motherfucker was murdered. Now, why would he be murdered? Hypothesis number 1. He went to Biloxi with fucking Lee Oswald. And if he gets to the Philippines and he's at Subic Bay, where he's killed, and fucking Harvey Oswald shows up, and he goes, "Holy fuck, you're not Lee Oswald." What is Oswald greenlit to do to protect the program, to protect the secret? Obviously, they covered up this fucking murder. Oh, another thing, we've been misled. In all the documents, it references the photographs of the reenactment, right? The reenactment showed the gun was like couple of feet away from him and pointing in a different direction. That's not how it was when they found the body. The first witness who saw the fucking body, who had to move him and move the gun and all that, said the gun was under his legs. He's laying flat on his back and the gun is under his legs. Imagine what that looks like. And he's shot through the chest. And the autopsy report keeps saying bullet. It keeps saying the missile. Okay, but if you're dealing with shotgun shells and a 12-gauge shotgun, you're dealing not with a single missile. You're dealing with pellets. You're going to have a huge radius blown away. That's not how they're describing it in the autopsy. They're describing it as a missile that entered the left side and continued through the right side. That doesn't sound like a shotgun blast. So there's some fucking shenanigans going on. So if you're in a fucking course and you know a guy who's Bob Smith, and then you go to work with Bob Smith a couple months later, and it's a dude who sort of looks like Bob Smith, but he's fucking shorter and skinnier, and you're like, what the fuck? So you call your brother and you're like, dude, this guy, I don't know what this fucking guy's problem is, but this ain't the guy who I went to school with, right? Naval intelligence finds out you made that fucking phone call and they go and murder your brother too. That's possibility number one, okay? Here's possibility number two. Possibility number two is that after returning December 18th, 1957, we don't see Harvey Oswald anywhere. There's no contradiction in any records between then and the time that he will go to Taiwan. Because we know it's Harvey Oswald who goes to Taiwan, for sure, right? Harvey Oswald gets on the boat on September the 14th of 1958, and you'll be there until, and we'll get to that story too, because the level of coordination that they had to do here in regards to Taiwan is fucking, it's crazy. Crazy that they thought all this stuff out. So let me continue on through this record here. We've got Harvey Oswald coming back on December 18th, 1957. And let's just say he goes on, they don't need him until he goes to Taiwan almost a year later, right? So let's just say they don't want to have two Oswalds hanging around when they don't need them. So one Oswald is out at the Philippines at this point. This is Lee Oswald. This is hypothesis number two. Lee Oswald, like everyone expects him to be there, is there with Powers, and he's there with, was it Camerata? Yeah, Camerata. And I think, and Schramm. And those are the only guys from the original group of six that went to Jacksonville and Biloxi together, right? So Lee Oswald's there. There's no conflict now. The only thing that we would have to incorporate into this is that Powers, when he was on the boat with Lee Oswald, he said they played chess a lot. So Armstrong is like, if it's chess and classical music and opera, it's Harvey, right? It kind of makes Harvey seem like the smart one. But like when I look at the records here, all the dates that coordinate with Lee, his grades and his performance are way better. And when you look at the ones where Harvey went, his performance is like shit. Like it's like 3s or 3.5s, whereas Lee is like in the 4s. So there's a definite inversion here of who the smart one really is. It seems as though Lee Oswald is the smart one who plays chess on his way to Atsugi with Powers after they left around August 1st and got there sometime in mid-August, but it's not documented on any of the sheets, right? Because then we have Oswald, who probably left on the 17th. So that's probably the case, is that Lee Oswald is the smarter one. Okay, so we've covered the gunshot. We've covered Harvey going to Corregidor. Let me hop to the duty sheet and see if I'm missing anything. Well, here we have a notation here. We have the June 19th, 57 date of Oswald getting out of Biloxi, of Lee Oswald getting out of Biloxi. Remember, and he had nothing to do till July 9th of 57. Then they all leave and they go to Atsugi. And from there, the next notation I have on this sheet is, this is a problem. We have an aberration here. We have Lee Oswald, who is from June 27th, 58 until August 13th, confirmed. I found all the documentation on this, confirmed. He was in the brig all that time. But while he's in the brig, we have one notation here, and that is that Harvey Oswald gets apparently Harvey Oswald in July of 1958 will be back at MACS 1. You can tell it's him because the grades are low. And he'll be there till August the 29th. So we have June 27th to August 13th. We have Lee in the brig. But simultaneously at MACS 1, starting in July of 58 through the 29th of August 58, we have Harvey working at MACS 1. All right, so let me read some of my notes here. This assignment is documented on not on the actual timesheet, but it's documented here as an extra date on the military pay records. So now I'm back to reading my notes off the pay records. All right, so we've already talked about Subic Bay. Realistically, if you want to maintain a continuity, you have to put Lee Oswald at Subic Bay and Corregidor when Martin Strand is killed. You have to, for continuity purposes. It just does. I mean, it's great for a murder mystery if it was Harvey that shows up, but the reality is that doesn't make sense. And Lee might have busted him too for something. I mean, who the fuck knows? He ends up dead. Somebody killed him. And the Harvey and Lee shit is going on at the exact same time. Coincidence? No fucking way. But if Lee is there, we have much more story continuity. We have Powers. We've got Brereton. We've got Camarada. It all makes sense. These guys were all together at Biloxi and Jacksonville, and we have no contradictions in the flow of the story. But we just don't have a crazy murder mystery if Harvey showed up. But you never know. It could be a combination of both. I mean, we just don't know. So, what date are we up to? We're up to 1958 somewhere. Let's talk about the brig. So he's in the brig from June the 27th to August 13th, like I said, and that's where we have that overlap. Another thing is about August 1958. August 58 is when Lee Oswald had his first bout of gonorrhea. Okay. Oh, and I have absolute 100% conclusive proof. And I don't even like to use the word proof very often, but I'll use it today. I have proof that Lee Oswald was not on the boat. That he was absolutely. There were two people in two different places. Let me see if I can just hop to that. The notation that I have is that while Harvey Oswald is out in Taiwan, Lee Oswald on the 16th, remember the boat left on the 14th with Harvey on it to go to Taiwan. On the 16th, Lee did go to the infirmary, but the argument was it the infirmary on the boat, right? The anti-Harvey and Lee people, the dumb fucking Kennedy researchers out there, they fucking just disregarded that whole thing. And they're like, oh, he was just on the boat, and they stamped it with the Atsugi stamp because that's where his team is based. No, you dumb fucks. God, it didn't even take me long to debunk this. Every fucking base hospital has its own permanent number. The one at Yokosuka starts with 39. The one at Atsugi starts with 38. Okay? But on September 16th, on a day we can say with absolute certainty that Harvey Oswald is on a boat to Taiwan, the lab at Atsugi had an appointment for Lee Oswald. So he went to the infirmary and they said, hey, you've got to go get a test. And so you got to go to the lab. So there's a lab on base. They called it main side. He said, you got to go main side, meaning you got to go to the fucking, the lab on the other side of the base or just off base. But they had a specific lab to go to. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the proof that one person was in Atsugi who had to go to multiple places to get checked out, as opposed to being on a boat in the middle of the ocean where you wouldn't be able to go to a lab on a boat, right? So that's the proof right there that they were in two different places. But we're past that, right, aren't we? We're past all that. So his VD started showing up in August of 58, and here's kind of what I'm getting at. He kind of always found a way to not be at work. Really. He found a way to not be at work, like, a lot. Whether he's in fucking jail, whether he's in the hospital. Remember, he goes to the hospital twice. He's there from October 27th to November 15th with a gunshot. And then a year later, he's back in there from October 7th. Okay, so let me tell the story. In looking at the documents and working out the timeline, the story of coordination between Harvey and Lee, and obviously a superior, it was so fucking funny. It just fell right into place. So Lee Oswald is fucked up. He has gonorrhea for 2 fucking months. They didn't give him any penicillin or nothing until like fucking late October. It's like, he's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? So, he's got gonorrhea for 2 months and he's got rectal bleeding. Okay. So he needs to be admitted to the fucking hospital, but he can't be admitted to the hospital, I guess, like as assigned there as a resident patient, if there's a fucking Lee Harvey Oswald on a boat in Taiwan or out in Taiwan, right? So what happens? And they lie here in the paperwork. In the paperwork, it says that there was a transfer of Oswald on October the 5th. That's complete bullshit. Oswald's incident happened on the 5th. And a guy out there, one of the witnesses, his name was Rhodes, R-H-O-D-E-S. So Harvey's out there and he's on guard duty on October 5th. And all of a sudden he freaks out and he shoots into the woods. And Rhodes comes running and he's like, what's up? What's up? He's like, oh, I thought I saw people in the woods. And then he admits that he's just freaking out and he's got to get off guard duty. He fucks up again on purpose, right? How many times is he going to get in trouble on purpose? He did it again. And what do? The next day is October 6th, the day that we have the duplicate record, right? But the duplicate record, of course, I know how to read these things now. And at this point, it's obvious that Lee Oswald, who is already at Atsugi, wasn't transferred like they try to say, okay? He wasn't transferred because he was already there. And how do I know he wasn't transferred? Because on every single fucking piece of paper that somebody's transferred, what you'll have is that day, it'll have like a paragraph under their name and it'll explain the transfer. It'll say from this to here to blah, blah, blah. And if Oswald in Atsugi would have been transferred, it would have said all that. It doesn't say it on the 6th. It doesn't say it on the 7th. All it says is on the 6th, one of them is in Taiwan, and on the 6th, one of them is in fucking Atsugi. So, yeah, definitely vindicated there. No doubt whatsoever. The activities of Oswald going to 2 places and to the lab to get tested completely flies in the face of anybody who says that fucking Oswald was actually in Taiwan. So let me just summarize again. Armstrong could not put Harvey in the Philippines or Corregidor. Okay? I did. The dates we have here, November 4th, 57 to December 18th, 57, completely coincide with the dates that Oswald would have been there. Now, I didn't even mention Palmer McBride yet, did I? Shit. So on December 18th, he comes back and he could have been back in New Orleans. I mean, you're not going to want fucking 2 Oswalds walking around. You're just not. Not at all. So Oswald could totally have fucking gone back there and worked there. Because they didn't need him. When did they need him next? They didn't need him until closer to when he had to go, right? To Taiwan, right? So the whole time between his trip to Corregidor, which ended December 18th, let's just say if he went back to the States, he'd be there before the end of December, probably just after Christmas. He gets the job at the Pfister Dental Lab, where he's, 19 years old now? He's not a kid. The pictures of him don't look like a kid. He looks older. Might even be Oswald number 3. Because we have a third Oswald. I promise you there's a third Oswald and a Margaret, not Marguerite, Margaret Mary Oswald. You guys can look her up too. She's in the mix somehow that we haven't figured out yet. But it's, at this point in time, it appears as though all the statements surrounding Palmer McBride, Pfister Dental Lab, and especially the New Orleans Astronomy Association with William Wolfe, all of those dates seem to revolve around Oswald's trip to Taiwan, right? So what you have is Oswald could have left, been gone this whole time, and then came back to go to Taiwan. And that whole time, you got Lee Oswald, who's in the brig, in the fucking hospital. He's doing shit, right? He's busy. So he can't be there. So to me, it seems like there's a window of opportunity for Harvey Oswald to have gone back home and to kept out of everyone's hair. That means he would have been gone fundamentally from around December the 19th through November of the following year. You're talking like 11 months that they didn't need Harvey Oswald. So it's completely feasible. I'm sorry, he goes back in September, so you're looking at 10 months. That's completely feasible that he went back to New Orleans. We have 2 witnesses now who put him at the Hotel Senator. Ed Vobel is a second witness who puts him at the Hotel Senator. So it's extremely fucking possible. Extremely possible. Ed Vobel ends up getting poisoned to death in his 30s. He happened to know both Oswalds from Beauregard. Man, I'm losing my voice. So it's totally feasible that Harvey Oswald could have done that. And so let me move on from there. So you've got Lee in the Atsugi Hospital from October 7th to the 13th. Okay, so the coordination, Lee's all fucked up and he needs to go to the hospital. So therefore, when you look at the paperwork, it says that the Oswald who transferred from Taiwan is the one who went back because they sent him on a medical leave. But that's not true. Rhodes debunks that. He went back because of the incident that he faked. It was obviously a fake incident to get him to send him back. And he did it. He got sent back. It worked. But it said that he was being sent back for heavy lifting. He needed medical care for heavy lifting. But then when you go back to Oswald, the other Oswald, Lee Oswald, it becomes completely obvious how they went about this swapperoo. So let me go over the dates here again. Now I'm back to my duty sheet. So the guard duty incident happened on October the 5th. Okay, this is really good. So that Oswald, that's Harvey Oswald. He's not transferred on October the 6th. What happens is Lee Oswald is transferred to a subunit number 3 on October the 6th. Oh no, this is subunit number 1. It'll be subunit number 3 later. So Lee gets transferred to subunit number 1 on October 6th. And then on October 7th, he admits himself to the hospital. At this exact same time, Harvey Oswald is back from Taiwan. And Lee Oswald is in the hospital. The next thing you have happen is on October the 17th, Lee Oswald transfers out of the hospital to MAG 13. Okay, MAG 13 is not on his duty sheet at all. The only reason I know about MAG 13 is because it's on his fucking payroll slip. So, Mag 13, oh, I'm sorry, subunit number 3 was when he was in the hospital for the gunshot. So, I apologize for that. Mag 13, which is unit A6162, it's also at Atsugi. It's just in a different area at Atsugi. He's registered there from October the 17th to October the 29th. Okay, he's getting ready to go home again. And so, this is the fucking best part. After Lee Oswald, he's just there for general duty. It means he's not doing shit. Which means that most of the time that he was out in the fucking Pacific, he didn't do shit. Really. He was in the brig or in the hospital or not doing shit. Or on leave. He was there just to put on a show. So, but the best part of this whole thing is, and let me bring back my duty sheet real quick, is that on the 31st of October, 2 days after Lee Oswald transfers out of Mag 13, you now have Harvey Oswald transferring back into subunit number 1 that Lee Oswald had transferred into before going to Mag 13, right? So on paper, since Mag 13 isn't there, it looks like one continuous stretch of subunit 1. It's fucking brilliant what these guys did. It's brilliant what they did. The coordination is off the fucking chain. So, next you have the transfer October 31st to subunit 1 general duties through December 18th. Through December 18th. I don't know about that date though, December 18th, and I'll tell you why. Because I can tell you with certainty that Lee Oswald was back on a fucking boat on November the 2nd, and he arrived back in San Francisco. Must have been November 18th or so, because on November 19th, he took leave through December 18th. And it appears as though Harvey Oswald is still out there in Atsugi through December 18th or so, give or take. We don't have an exact date, because remember, we only have the evidence of one boat ride, right? We have the official documentation of one boat ride that left November 2nd. But that's not true, because fucking Harvey Oswald is on this subunit still well into December. And that is problematic. That's problematic. So what you have here also is an opportunity for Lee Oswald to go to San Francisco and go to the language school. Right? This is what I think happened. I think there's sufficient evidence to say that Lee Oswald was out of the Marines by March or April, just like Gorski said. Gorski said he was out by March. When you look at all the dates of all the testing that he did and all the let's process you out of the Marines stuff, all that shit was done between January after the return, actually December the 23rd. All of that testing and stuff, well, we can say with certainty Harvey Oswald is back by December 23rd because he is seen by Delgado, Nelson Delgado, whose testimony is a little too convenient at times. But he's seen by Nelson Delgado in December 23rd. But sometime between December 23rd and February the 25th, a whole bunch of tests will be taken. And on February the 25th, a Russian test will be taken. Obviously, that test will be taken by Harvey. Or maybe not. We don't know. We should suspect that it was taken by Harvey. At this point, they make it seem that we're not sure if Harvey Oswald speaks fluent Russian or broken Russian, or if he's studying it, or what the deal is, but Russian's a hard fucking language. I took French for fucking 4 years, all of high school. I don't remember 2 goddamn words. I couldn't speak 2 words then. I can't speak 2 words now, after 4 fucking years. That guy did not teach himself fucking Russian at Atsugi in like 3 months from a book. Period. When you read his writing, I saw somebody on the education forum, or the fucking lack of education forum, I should call it, the main JFK dumbfuck forum out there that these idiots fucking argue over. Someone had taken Oswald's written letter to Marina. There was a letter written in Russian. and gave it to somebody who spoke Russian to see if they could translate it, and they translated it, and it turned out that it was a fucking sophisticated letter. It wasn't no fucking, hey, how you doing? Where's the train? It was a fucking sophisticated letter with nuance and context and syntax, right? All that stuff. So he was fucking fluent. Period. And you don't learn that in a book. So, where are we at? We are at December the 23rd. We have Harvey Oswald is back now. Everyone's back. Okay, so all the contradictions here, I just went over them all. Honestly, between the duty sheet, between the payroll slips, and between the leave form, I just filled in every fucking gap of Lee Harvey Oswald in the Marines, both of them. And from here, if you go under the theory that Lee Oswald got out in March, the thing that backs it up for me is that Robert Oswald, in the first interview he gave to the FBI, he said that when Robert came back to Fort Worth and he stayed with him, he said he was there for a couple months before he went to New Orleans. How are you going to be there for a couple months if you leave in September 11th and you're on a boat by September 19th? That's not a couple months. A couple months is you get out in March, you make your way to Fort Worth by April, and then you're there until September. That's a couple months. So is there a possibility that Lee Oswald got out in March and that Harvey Oswald stayed in until September-ish? Oh, yes. Very possible. Right now, I've got two pieces of corroboration. Let me think for a second if I could fit that into a rational time frame here. Well, I can tell you with certainty the picture of Lee in Robert Oswald's book, we have some major contradiction surrounding that. In the book, it's printed. This picture was taken in February of 1958. Now, he says that that's not correct, and he says that it was actually taken the Saturday after Lee decided to leave the Marines, which would have been in September of 59, probably September 20-something of 59. That's way later than he's ever said. He said it was December 58 before, and it's printed in the book that it was February 58. Both, who the fuck knows what date it was actually taken? Who knows what date it was actually taken? I have a feeling that the picture was taken, might have been after well, here's the thing. I was going to say when he got out of the Marines, but Robert Oswald has been so adamant over the years that he was on leave when that happened. And we all know that the 3 times that Lee Oswald went on leave, he went to the 3830 address in Fort Worth, which belonged to the original Marguerite, before she disappeared to go work in New Orleans again, where she's seen by John Pick at Cox's department store. So that picture is most certainly not Harvey Oswald. It's most certainly Lee Oswald. And to me, it's the most damning evidence of two Oswalds, besides all the stuff we've already covered. But so you have Lee out, I'm suspecting by March of 59. He goes and visits Robert, stays in Fort Worth for a couple months before the other Oswald, Harvey Oswald, gets out in September. That's what he has to do. That's probably what he did do. He got out in March and he killed some time. And then he made his way to wherever the fuck he disappeared to. I don't believe, this is another thing that John Armstrong got really wrong. I don't believe that this Lee Oswald had anything to do at all with Miami, with Mexico City, with all the fucking things that he puts Lee in. The fucking guy, his files are full of stuff on William Seymour and Lawrence Howard and those guys, but he doesn't really talk about them. Doesn't include them in the theory. He mentions William Seymour once in his book. And William Seymour was clearly the man in the book depository, clearly the man who was impersonating Oswald all over the place with a husky Latino with a pockmarked face, right? God, talking about Oswald and the Marines and all this stuff is so refreshing, because I've been talking about Lawrence Howard in the book depository for fucking years. It's so refreshing that I could, number one, solve this thing in 3 fucking weeks. Okay? I solved fucking Harvey and Lee in the Marines in 3 fucking weeks, people. Jesus Christ. I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm shitting on Kennedy researchers, because they should have done this a long time ago. This was pretty fucking easy. But I'm starting to ramble because I'm falling asleep. So I'm going to wrap this up here pretty quickly. So after this, you have you have a series of testing. You have all that stuff that gets done. Like I said, that all leads up until a March date, and then from March till September, he's just in there preaching communism. Like, that's it. It's the last 6 months only that he's out there preaching communism. Not even communism. His people in his bunk with him say it's socialism he's talking about, and Marxism. He never really talks about communism. One of the guys, who was it? I don't remember which one, but one of the guys in the Marines said he was a pure Marxist, and he didn't like the way things were run in the Soviet Union. He made enough quotes to people where you should be able to tell that guy's not a communist. He's just doing what he's told. He's being a good agitator. But those are the dates, ladies and gentlemen, and every single date between the duty sheet, the pay slips, and the leave forms are 100% accounted for. And it totally shows that there were two men, not one. One man couldn't do this. One man couldn't do all this and leave all these notations. So the way I see it, the way I just laid it out is exactly how it happened. But I'm falling asleep, ladies and gentlemen, and I got to get some sleep. So I'm out of here. And I will be back tomorrow with another show. And we will we'll talk more about this stuff, and I'll see if I can poke any holes in my own theory. But for the time being, I'm pretty content that we can say with certainty now that there were a Harvey and a Lee. And we have all the records all laid out with the dates, the places they were, and all that stuff. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day.